I thought the previous presenter gave an excellent talk, thought-provoking. So I'm not going to be doing justice to you guys, but at least I'll attempt. Some of the things really hit to the bottom of what is the problem in this industry, and I'll give you my perspective, a little bit of a perspective, and really something that we've been trying to see, okay, what are the problems and how do we possibly address those? So there was a problem statement, and hopefully I'll address something towards a solution statement coming from our side. A little bit about CSR, who we are. CSR is Cambridge Silicon Radio. We are a semiconductor vendor primarily, so we make silicon. We make GPS silicon, Bluetooth silicon, Wi-Fi silicon, near-field communication silicon, all sorts of chipsets, essentially what we make. So we are more of a technology partner to this industry than really a competitor. We bring technologies, enabling technologies, and there are two key technologies that I'll be talking about today. One will be a back-end services platform. We heard about services that look at this as a service. Don't look at this as a commodity device sale. So we've been building a services platform. Our services platform today is serving, if any of you have an Android phone, it's actually hitting our services platform. Every Android handset hits our server because our server has been licensed to Google. Every BlackBerry handset hits our server because our server has been licensed to BlackBerry. What we've done is we've taken that expertise and we're bringing them and packaging it towards what the locate and tracking industry needs, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The other thing that I'll really like to talk about is, again, we heard from Navtech, indoor mapping. Well, today I can't get a location indoors. What will indoor mapping do? So we'll talk about some of the innovation we're doing in that space to bring that technology to you guys. So then you can make devices, you can make services, and really deliver solutions to your customer. So really, we talk about location-based services, and think of them as location-enabled services. Location is an enabler. Look, you can have any service that you might be offering, and by bringing a location aspect to it, the context of location to it, really you are making this enhancement of that service take place. And as part of location-enabled services, I would say it's time to think about reliability and scalability. That's two things that very specifically I see missing in India. Yesterday, somebody came to me and says they want to bid for this HP, Himachal Pradesh transport tender. Probably 5 or 10 of you guys are probably also looking at how the heck you can bid into that. I looked at the specifications, requirements. Open source. The vendor should provide their source code to HP Transport Department and run a server, deliver a complete NOC. Is the Transport Department, with due respect, an IT department? What will they do with the source code? And if a company is going to invest millions of dollars developing a source code, why will it give a good quality source code in the open? Let's think about it. And we have people bidding and saying, yes, comply, comply, comply. This is a serious problem, folks. How will we grow? How will we get the money? You saw the ARPU dropping. How will we get the money from that ARPU to get enough money to fund and pay for our engineers? We are not thinking that. We are looking at it as one-time commodity sale. We have to get out of this mindset. It is not a hardware game. It is not like selling tires into a car and forgetting about it. It's a service. And the second thing I'll really talk about is indoor positioning. That's the next frontier. You can think of applications. The technology is coming. The products are coming. So that's my problem statement. It was done much better by the previous speaker. We have a lot of service providers, solution providers. How many people in this forum here are end users? End users, people who will actually use these services. Okay, few, excellent. How many of us are providers of hardware? a vehicle tracking device. Let's have the hands up. How many of us are providing a back-end tracking application? And how many of us are doing both of that, a hardware and a tracking? Right? And I was talking to Manish, and Manish was telling me he has given a handbook of all the people in the GPS industry. I was talking to him, right? It's in our bag. If you look at your bag, there's a handbook that they've compiled. Over 300 companies. I thought it was like 100 companies. He told me, no, there are 300. And he said 80 of them disappeared by the time the handbook was compiled. So he had to do the handbook again. Seriously, this morning Manish told me. And he's sitting right there. You can confirm with him. Right? It talks about, it gives us a perspective of what's happening in this industry. More than 300 companies, 18 disappeared by the time he got his handbook ready. And these people have probably gone to end users, sold them a great story, maybe sold them hardware, and then after a month or two disappeared. Because they've promised to give a hardware for 5,000 rupees, a service at 50 rupees a month, along with a hosted server and everything. Great. Excellent business model. Yeah. And what is happening is users are left with a bad taste. So when you go, first of all, you end up with a fragmented market. And the first thing, and I'm actually not going, but my customers are coming and telling me this, right? So as I talk to them and they're saying, okay, this is the problem I'm going through. Most of the customers that you feel are the qualified customers, like the organized trucker, you go to him and he says, this other guy came with some explicit along with that. I have 100 devices from him. Get them working. Once they are working, then I'll talk about and listen to your story. Right? A lot of you probably heard that, right? So because I have heard this also. So this is the reputation that we have. And of course, there is no standard. So all these devices have their own proprietary protocol. Now, how the heck do you hack somebody else's proprietary protocol, which is protected probably with a key also? And so this is a nice paperweight that they paid about 10,000 rupees. So it's about 10 lakhs that this person is already sunk. And in some cases, if he's too angry, he'll probably lift one and throw at you so that you never come back. Right? So this is another problem. So we have to bring some structure. We have to work together. We have to increase the pie. And at the end, it's about delivering value to the end user. They are not seeing value. They're basically seeing, quote unquote, dalals coming and trying to pitch a piece of hardware who will not show up after 2 months. Because 80 of these companies are gone. So what happens? They are left with this piece of hardware. So we have to really collectively come and say, what is it that needs to happen? If we look at what is happening is, we have individual vertical solutions in this industry. So a company A comes up, it brings a vehicle tracking system, right? And we have examples out there. No offense, guys, but if you look outside, right, there's probably 4 or 5 companies offering tracking services. Just exhibitors. Right? So they'll have a device. The device could be different from different companies. In some cases, it could be the same company, because most of the people are coming from China, these devices. Right? Since it's become a price game, nobody wants to buy the expensive European devices, which have been qualified, which are better quality, or even the Taiwanese. People want the Chinese because price. Then you have the platform. They'll go build some server. As you said, you can have a graduate from IIT come in, buy some devices, write a little comm server, right? Recently, somebody came and said, why should we use your platform? There is this thing called OpenGIS. I'll just get that open source code and write my own server. Very good, yes. And then they write some application on top and say, here's my vehicle tracking. Another company comes in, brings some other device, brings another kind of middleware, open source. So I'll give this source code to you, no problem. Right? Yes, comply. And that becomes an asset tracking application. Third company starts, they come up with the people tracking. right? So everybody is trying to do that. And how will you succeed? Mind you, let's look at an experience from, I'll take you back to the computer industry. There were companies that were trying to do everything vertically. Right? There's only one company that survived the vertical integration. Right? And they struggled. Of course, they've changed the game now, and that company is called Apple. Right? That's the only computer manufacturer. Now, of course, Apple is looked at as a different iPhone, more thinking of it as a phone company. But that's the only vertical company that did their own chips, their own motherboards, their own OS, and their own box, and sold it as a brand. And we have people for 100 or 1,000, even today's market, in 2016, for 1 million unit market, trying to do vertical integration. It's not going to be successful. The PC industry became successful when it became horizontal. Intel came with chip and motherboard. Microsoft came with an OS. Application developers came with application. The box people came and started making a box. IBM, that's why first, initially, if you go back to the 83, 84, 85 time frame, the IBM PS2 compatible became kind of the key thing for boxes, that it was compatible with IBM PS2. We have to start thinking like that for us to be successful. Because then, if I have 160 people, I can put those 160 people focused in an area that I want to take control of and put my money there and make it the best, rather than taking my 160 people and spreading them across. Because then we'll end up with a good enough solution, a good enough product. So to me, what we have been looking at is saying, okay, how do we make a system, a platform, which will allow companies to really integrate their applications and products? So if I go back, I am looking at bringing a platform. Somebody else does the front end application, and somebody else does the device. And that's their core expertise. And you can bring your device and your application too. You're most welcome. And so I'm taking that first step of saying I'll get maps from companies like Navtech. As a company, we are one of the leaders in the location creation space. That's what we call our multi-mode server. That's what we've already licensed to Google and RIM and a lot of operators globally. So I'll integrate that, get the best location, do a middleware platform, and then allow either smartphones. We said those smartphones are a threat, yes, but at least there is a standard. That's a bigger threat. There is a standard.